Hello, all. I decided to do another recording and slideshow to hopefully help with your second papers. So, what I've decided to do is just to give you a little bit of commentary on the sample papers that I included to give you an idea of what I found were strengths in the papers and what I found where I found room for revision. So, if you would pull up copies of those papers, since this is posted on YouTube, I cannot take sections of those papers and post it for public consumption. So pull out those two papers, open up that file. It's under Unit 2, under sample papers. And let's start with the first paper, number 1, on mental health. So one of the things that I found really strong is that the purpose is very, very clear in this paper. Those last two sentences of the first paragraph really make sense. In addition, his personal interest in the issue is very clear on the first paragraph of page 2. And he talks about the way this intersects his own experience. Also, I think the conclusion's really well done, and I particularly admire good conclusions because I struggle with conclusions. But the last paper clarifies what he's concluded without just repeating the first paragraph. He comes to a slightly different set of language to describe what's gone on. And additionally, I think this is very, very well researched. He provides lots of resources, and we're very clear on where his ideas come from. So, revision suggestions. Despite the fact that I say the purpose is clear, I would move the personal interest to the opening paragraph. So that first paragraph on the second page, I would move to the start. I think it's better to right at the beginning to say, this is what I'm interested in and this is why. Because he's got a two-part thing that he tells us about. One is that he himself has dealt with mental illness or mental health issues. But he also mentions that therapists and psychiatrists themselves sometimes stigmatize medications. And I think those are really provocative reasons to move forward and talk about this. I think his audience is interesting, and I have some thoughts about who he's writing to. But I'd like the author to be more clear on who they're in particular speaking to. So, is this intended for, let's say, GSU students? And if so, how does this relate to them? So, I think he needs to ask the question, who can be the kind of audience that Bitzer describes? That is, one that can take action. And then once you decide that, you need to say, okay, what action can that audience take? And it may be just, I want to change misperceptions. I just want people to be more open to this. So, yeah, those are the revision suggestions I have for that. Okay, the strengths of the community college paper. I really like this paper. The personal interest is front and center. We know exactly why this paper is being written, what its purpose is, and how it intersects personally with the writer. I love also that it's very relevant to GSU students. Most of our transfer students are coming from community colleges, and we have a program specifically to link GSU to some community colleges. I think it's additionally relevant to folks from Illinois because I think Illinois has a fantastic community college program. So lots of people are touched by it. And I also think that the attitude of, well, it's just community college is really prevalent. And having had a child who went to community college, I think very highly of them. I don't at all see it as, I share the perspective of this particular writer that it is not just a community college. Really, not to be overly dramatic, but community college, I think, really kind of saved my daughter's future and, you know, her investment in herself and so on. It just really restored self-confidence and really well done. In addition, this is also very well researched. I mean, just spot on. And I really love the way she uses and introduces research in the paper. I think it's very skillful, and I think that's not always easy to do. My big suggestion for this paper is organization, and my comment is that many of the paragraphs are too long. So if you look, for example, at the first paragraph, I would suggest that she breaks after the sentence that begins, "That was a big commitment," and before the sentence that begins, "I ended up at." The reason I suggest that is that we tend to have reading fatigue when paragraphs are too long. And because of that, once we get halfway through, we may lose sight of what the paragraph's about. And I think it's really important that our attention is drawn to KCC. That's a very, very critical point that she's leading us to and is going to work on. There are several other paragraphs in the paper that I think also need to be broken up, and for the same reason. Another thing that I would say about both of these papers, and to you generally, I think that bulleting information might help. So she has in here a list of several advantages of community college. It might be helpful just to bullet those rather than put them in a narrative form, so that we can say, so this is a strength, that is a strength, unless it needs, you know, discussion. So always consider that that might help a reader out, and it might cover a lot more ground for you. One other thing that I want to say about these papers is that the next project is a proposal, a strategy for responding to a problem. How do we advocate for change? And at least for the first paper, I don't think the writer of the second paper used that topic for her last paper, but the writer of the first paper definitely used the material about the mental health situation to write his last paper, in terms of, he proposed that medical facilities have specialists in the same buildings, so that if you go to your GP and they say, "I think you really need to see a therapist," that you can just go down the hall and see the therapist. And so that it's easy. The easier he thinks it is to get to a new place, the more likely people are to go there. Well, I hope this gives you some insight to why I chose these two papers. I think they're very good. There are other ways of approaching this paper. These are not the only ways, but I did want to show you two. Good luck, and reach out if you have any questions.